So I have some downtime, and I came across the Chicago Tribune, and there's a headline in the Tribune: 3 billion birds vanish. 3 billion. So, I'm a bird person, so I have to read this. And believe it or not, they don't mention climate change. I can't believe it. But basically, they've done a long-term study, and they determined that 3 billion birds have vanished since 1970. And they claim that part of the reason is we're not killing them anymore that we did at the turn of the century. What we're doing is we're killing them through habitat loss and poisoning. So right now, I am sitting in the heart of one of the largest cities in the country, along one of the largest migration routes in North America. I'm sitting in the middle of Chicago. It sits on the lakefront. And the lakefront of Lake Michigan is a major migration route for birds migrating south. We're just a little bit east of the Mississippi Flyway, which is one of 3 major flyways, migration routes for North American birds. We have the Atlantic Flyway along the eastern seaboard. You have the Mississippi Flyway. It's right down the center of the country, east of the Rockies, and you have the Pacific Flyway, which runs on the Pacific coast, straight down on the west side of the Rockies. So, anyway, I want to read something out of this. Give me a few minutes here. And I'll explain why I think this is important. It says, I can't even read it because of the bad lighting in there. And here's something that I see. Species such as bobolink, quail, iconic American bird that once frequently spotted around Kankakee, have retreated mainly to protected landscapes and preserves. There were about 1 million bobolink in Illinois in the 1950s, and the most recent estimate was about 34,000 remaining. You're talking about a decline of more than 90%. 90%. Now, when I was a kid, I grew up around open, uncultivated fields, and I remember bobolinks. And I know this isn't going to matter to a lot of people who don't really pay attention to this thing. But birds are the barometer of the environment. If you really think about it, birds are the one thing that you can see every day. It's the one wild animal you can see every day when you step out your door. Now imagine a world where you don't have that. If you want to know what that's like, go to Hong Kong. Go to Beijing, where there are no birds because they eat them all. You step out in the streets of Hong Kong or Beijing, you don't see anything. There's not even any pigeons. Now, this may not matter to people because human beings have the unique ability to completely live without any other life forms around them. They are completely happy living around with other people. Now, I am not one of these people. After I read this, I had an understanding of one of the reasons I love birds so much is that because they are actually such delicate creatures, people don't realize how delicate and how frail, and yet how robust they are at the same time. And I have been an advocate for a very long time for the advocate for people to help native species of birds for a very, very long time. And in this, it even talks about the decline of house sparrows. I hate house sparrows. This is a bird that I kill thousands of these things every year, along with starlings, because they're non-native competitors of our native cavity nesting birds, which have been declining for a long time. I am a lover of purple martins and bluebirds and tree swallows and woodpeckers and some lesser known species of cavity nesting birds, and I have worked extremely hard on my property to get these birds to nest safely without being destroyed by house sparrows or starlings. And this article actually talks about house sparrows declining in rural areas because there's no longer any spilt grain. Well, I find it really hard to believe house sparrows decline anywhere, to be honest with you, because they are so pervasive. And I know all my purple martin friends and bluebird friends are going to agree with me with this, because they haven't declined enough as far as I'm concerned. But this would explain why it is so hard to attract purple martins. And I have long told people that if you live in an area where purple martins are not common, the odds of getting them to nest is next to impossible. It took me 20 years to attract one pair of purple martins to my yard, and I was literally across the street from a purple martin colony that was there for 30 years with an average of 30 pairs of purple martins every year. And 7 years being across the street from that, I couldn't even attract one pair of birds. That says something about their population, and I have long said this, that their population is crap, particularly the further north you go. So what do we have here? Well, what can we do to change this? Well, first of all, there's some things you can't do. Commercial agriculture has really made life for migrating birds extremely difficult, in the sense that cornfields and soybean fields are just deserts. They offer nothing for any type of migrating bird. I mean, when you have forest birds migrating south, heading to South America, they're going to use what available tree cover they can find for not just cover and food and shelter when they're migrating. You don't have a lot of trees, particularly here in Illinois. So if you're migrating, you have to stick to the rivers. You have to stick to the river bottoms with what little tree cover that you have left. And what does that do? Well, if you have tons and tons of whatever migrating birds you have that are being funneled into these small areas, the predators are going to be astronomical. So what needs to be done is change the freaking glass that we use on houses and skyscrapers and buildings. We lose so many birds smashing into glass windows during migration during the night. It's always these rare and small birds, the warblers and the ovenbirds and where I'm sitting in this car right now. Last year I was trying to catch a shorebird called a ruddy turnstone. And they nest in the Arctic. And there was one running around the street here where I'm at in downtown Chicago right now. And for some reason, it could not fly straight out and up into the sky. It was going under the vehicle. I was trying to catch it because I wanted to catch it and get it out of here where it could continue on its trip south. I unless I had a net, you just forget about it. But I could not get this bird. I felt terrible about it. We need to change some things, and it doesn't have to be expensive. They have bird-friendly glass, but here is even a better way to protect migrating birds in large cities along flyways. Turn the damn lights off at night and draw the curtains or the shades on every single freaking building they've got during migration season. 3 weeks, 4 weeks out of twice a year. During the fall migration, the spring migration, turn the damn lights off on the inside of these buildings and pull the shades down so these birds don't crash into the glass because they think they can fly through these spaces. So all small neotropical migrating birds They migrate at night. And they go through these cities, particularly like little Chicago as an example, because they're using the lakefront to navigate. They're freaking smashing in the windows, man. And I've picked up this time of year, in late August, you walk around Chicago in the early morning hours, you find all kinds of dead and injured birds. And it's always these migrating warblers. And it breaks my heart when I see this. They need to change building codes when you build these buildings. Use bird-friendly glass. Use stuff on the glass that the birds can see to prevent them from smashing into it. That's the first thing we can do. Number thing is we need to change some of our agricultural practices where we use hedgerows between fields again. So some of these grassland birds can use it. Here's another thing. Instead of spending money on cutting the damn grass along our rural highways and our expressways in the middles and the mediums, instead of keeping the grass real short, let the grass grow throughout the summer months. So what grassland birds that we do have left can nest in those. But no, we won't do that shit. We want to cut the grass this high. These gravel roads, these country roads in the rural parts of our nation, and I've gone through many of them. That's the only remaining habitat between cornfields and soybean fields. Give them strips of grass. If that's only we got, let them have it. And we'd save tons of taxpayers' money on not having somebody having to cut this grass all summer long. We need to do stuff like this. It really... Look, if we're going to be environmentally sound, or we plan on being environmentally sound, these are the things that we need to do. And we don't have to spend tons of taxpayers' money to do any of this. We need to change practices. We save taxpayers' money. As far as an individual, what you can do. I'm an advocate of feeding birds, but damn it, just don't feed them anything. And if you are feeding house sparrows and starlings, you are not helping the problem. You're not helping the situation. I'm an advocate for eliminating those species, not propagating them. But if you want to feed wild birds, pick specific types of seed that these other ones won't eat. Thistle, or what they will call Niger seed, and oil sunflowers, the little tiny oil sunflower seed. If you specifically go to that, you'll select a certain type of birds, and it'll help them out. Don't just do the wholesale bird feeding on the cheapest bird food you can find. You're just feeding the trash birds. You're feeding the invasive species. And I don't even have a problem with people feeding pigeons because pigeons didn't usurp niches. They didn't take over niches that belong to native species. Here's another thing, and it's not a popular thing to say, but because we have fragmented habitats into these little tiny forests and these little fragmented areas, there needs to be predator control. I'm sorry, there needs to be predator control. Raccoons cause a lot of destruction. When you have a raccoon population, look, if you don't have wolves, you're going to have tons of raccoons. Something needs to control raccoons. If you don't have wolves, and most places don't have wolves, wolves control raccoon populations. Nobody wants to live amongst wolves, and you can't have wolves in areas where there's no habitat to support them. Coyotes don't kill raccoons because raccoons are nasty and vicious and large. And raccoons kill and eat a lot of birds. They can climb up anything. They strip birds' nests. They strip their eggs. They kill the females in the nest. Raccoons are murder on ground nesting birds as well. You need predator control. I'm sorry. It's just how it is. The raccoons, start doing something about raccoons. Start eliminating some of these predators. If you want to help songbirds recover, you got to control their predators. And I don't care how emotional you get over this issue and how goody two-shoes you are and how much you care about the environment. Freaking mammalian predators are horrible on birds, particularly climbing ones. And do I have a thing against raccoons? Absolutely. Because there's way too many of the damn things. We don't have a hunting season on them anymore. People don't trap them for the fur anymore. And once again, if you don't have wolves controlling their numbers, something's got to control their numbers. You cannot let raccoons just overpopulate to the point where they become the major predator because there's nothing else eliminating them. So there needs to be predator control. So those are the things we as individuals can change things on this vanishing bird population thing. The other thing is you need to plant bird-friendly plants, things that help feed them and stuff. But once again, and I'm talking from the perspective of dealing with some native birds. There are plants and bushes and grasses and so on that benefit them. And there are so many of them, and you got to look them up. I'm not going to go into it. I want my property to be inviting to more open-spaced birds. Bluebirds, purple martins, tree swallows. So what did I do when I bought my property? I cut every tree down. I know that doesn't make sense to people, but there are some birds that prefer what's called edge habitat, that prefer open habitat. Bluebirds hunt in short grass. I want short grass. Here's another thing. Man, curb the use of the freaking pesticides. You know, we don't have to have these pristine green-ass lawns. If you're going to treat your lawns and kill every grub and every earthworm and everything in the damn thing, you are defeating the purpose. I don't use any pesticides. I got a weedy lawn. I just keep it cut. I want clover. I want dandelions because clover and dandelions are good for bees, and I keep bees. But it's also better for the environment. When you have more insects, you have more birds that eat the insects. And you want to encourage that. But damn it, get rid of the lawn services. Get rid of the stuff that we're constantly poisoning. Everything goes into our water. And stop with it. Stop with the freaking... Don't worry about the damn grubs. Don't worry about the damn... The freaking dandelions. Don't worry about the clover. Do we gotta poison everything? You know, you have so many people that get up here and pontificate about we gotta save the environment, but you're not doing a damn thing about it. Plant flowers for pollinators. Plant flowers that pollinators will use. Stay away from invasive species of plants that really don't do any good for anything else in this country. Try to plant native species of plants around your home. I mean, people, we need to do something. If you want to do something, the biggest thing you can do to help the environment is help native species of birds. It's just, if you want to make a difference, screw that Green New Deal, screw the climate change thing. None of that shit matters. I mean, I hate to say this, but none of it matters. The birds can adapt to all the changes, but if they don't have any habitat, because we keep taking it from them, we keep taking their habitat from them. If we don't do something about the habitat, and here's another thing: your damn cats. Keep your freaking cats in the house. Do not let your cats out. Cats kill billions of birds annually. Keep your cats in. There are no, outside of bobcats in North America, there's no native species of cats in North America preying upon birds. Your house cats, when you let them out, they live in an unnatural way that allow them to procreate, form feral colonies. If you're doing one of these feral cat colonies where you trap, neuter, and inoculate and let these things live in the wild in a natural state, you are not doing birds any favors. Any favors. And the crazy cat ladies have become advocates for release, for trap and neuter and release, and you're not helping the birds. Every rodent that they kill, they are robbing a fox or a bird of prey of a prey item. You are reducing their numbers by removing their food sources. So when you get an artificial population of cats, you keep releasing these cats and you go out there and you dump all this food in there, you're increasing the raccoon population, you're increasing the skunk population, the possum population. You are artificially increasing the populations of all these other predators. You make it harder for the birds. And I almost didn't touch on that, but you know what? You love cats. That's fine. Keep all the damn cats you want, but keep them in the house. Don't let them out to kill everything there is. You know, and I'm not going to go on to this, But man, I manage my property. I want my property to be inviting to the small things that cats kill. For the first time where I live, I'm seeing garter snakes appearing in the areas that allow the grasses to grow and allow cover and plants for things to be hidden. I'm getting garter snakes, which I'm fine with. I want them to go. I'm even finding fox snakes for the first time in 15 years where I've been living. I want them to be there. They're part of the landscape. They're part of the environment. And they're there to do, they're there for a reason. They're there for a purpose. I don't want to stifle wildlife from using my place. I want it to be a safe place for smaller, lesser creatures that can breed safely and avoid the freaking predators because they have a hard enough life. Birds have a hard enough life. They need oases to go to. They need places. They need people who are going to protect them and be a good steward for them. So I'm talking everybody who keeps bluebirds, purple martins, tree swallows, woodpeckers. And I put up nesting boxes for woodpeckers. I want woodpeckers to nest at my place. It's not an easy thing to do. In order to do this, you got to control house sparrows, you got to control starlings, and I stay on top of this all the time. So I'm going to make this, it's a 20-minute video, but this is a subject that's so close to my heart. But we got to do something to help these birds. Screw the climate change. Help the birds.